And every week, Jordan Ham walks on, brought to you by Venezia's Pizzeria, all things on the college platform. Jordy was at both Arizona and Arizona State this past weekend. Before we look ahead to the Wildcats going to Starkville against Mississippi State and ASU with Oklahoma State coming into Tempe, quick thought first, U of A, you were there. What'd you see? What'd you like? What concerned you?
Yeah, it was I think, a different brand of offense that we have come to know under this current regime from the past year. It was a lot of vertical passing last year. This year, at least one game in, I really liked the involvement of the running backs, not just running the ball, but also receiving. They caught 10 of 20 passes from Jaden DeLaura last year, or this past game. Last year, they caught 17% of the completions from last year. So I don't know if this was a one game thing that NAU was covering the wide receivers and tight ends particularly well, or if this all of a sudden is Michael Wiley, Jonah Coleman, DJ Williams getting more involved in the passing game. So that was one thing that really jumped out to me. And then how they were able to close the door. NAU gets a field goal at the end of the first half. And it seems like they're starting to hang around, and maybe there's some uneasiness in Tucson. They have a special teams touchdown, and they're able to then really shut the door 38-3. And this is an uneventful game all of a sudden. And with these types of games, when you're a Power Five program, you want these openers to be uneventful. You want it to be ho-hum onto the next Power Five opponent.
Yeah, and I thought too, Jordan, it's the defense of U of A, holding an opponent to less than 300 yards. I don't care if it's NAU, because U of A's defense has been a sieve over the years, and I'm being kind. They were just flat brutal. But last Saturday night, for me, that was my big takeaway. And now you look ahead to Mississippi State, completely different situation. First year coach, you're going on the road, you're going to Starkville. The running attack, it sounds like hearing about what Mississippi State has to offer. This Saturday, whole different challenge for the Wildcats.
Totally. And we saw them last year go on the road to open the season against San Diego State. Probably a San Diego State team that we were anticipating being a bit better than they ended up being, but they were able to go in there and really shut the door. And they're going to have to do that. We always knew what Mississippi State looked like under Mike Leach. Now that there is this new chapter of Mississippi State football, I think the scouting is going to be a little bit tougher and you can only really go off of one game of what they're doing. But I think the defense is going to have to step up and have another performance like that to make sure they're an SEC country. This is a whole different ball game for them, but they can really catapult themselves into a whole new momentum and selling season tickets and, getting butts and seats in Tucson if they can come away with the victory in Starkville.
Yeah, because then you have UTEP after that, a very good opportunity to be 3-0 to start out the season. All right, let's flip over to Arizona State. So an uneven performance by Arizona State, but you had the factor of the weather. I'll get into that in a second. But they're meeting an Oklahoma State team that, speaking of uneven performances, I watched a lot of that game just to look ahead. They didn't look good. They used three quarterbacks. I think when this game was first put on the schedule, it's, this could be a jack stomp. And it still may be. But I think Arizona State has a really good shot at home against Oklahoma State after seeing them the other night.
This feels a little bit different than the Spencer Sanders team that we saw last year. To your point, Central Arkansas was within 6 points in the second half against Oklahoma State at home. So I think this is a completely different ball game for them, and a lot to clean up for Arizona State. It's tough to gauge, though, really where this team is at when you throw a 2.5-hour break. But it really is tough to evaluate what this team looked like and how they're going to now apply that to Oklahoma State.
This had to do with after the game is over. You're down in the locker room in the press area, and Jordan Clark jumps in to defend Jaden Rashada. It's a moment that, apple doesn't fall far from the tree. Jordan Clark, for those who may not be familiar, his dad is Ryan Clark, very good broadcaster at ESPN. But I thought that moment encapsulated something internally at Arizona State that was like, wow. Okay, this is not overstating it, but that's been missing outwardly in years past, in my opinion. Take us back to that moment.
Yeah, that was a really cool moment. It was after 1 a.m. We had some sound system issues during the player portion of media, so everyone's trying to adjust and kind of just get survive in advance. And as the players are starting to wrap up, Jordan Clark just said, "Hey, I'd like to say something."
That's this kid's first college start. That's his kid's first college start. He works his ass off, and he won his first football game under insane circumstances. We sat in the locker room for like 2 hours. Y'all still here, y'all know. So I think that he deserves credit for finishing the football game how he did, staying poised under those circumstances. And I think that the question should be about how he finished and how he finds that poise at such a young age in his first start, for real.
It felt like something Chase Lucas would do. It felt like, very few leaders, maybe Brandon McGee would be one of those guys that would step up and do that. Jordan's a really special leader. And even going back to like Camp Tonazona, when it was on a Friday, there weren't many people there. The third team defense was out there on 3rd and goal. And he starts doing the 7 Nation Army chant with the first teamers to get them going. He was nowhere near the field. He was, he very easily could have been joking around with somebody, talking to a coach about something, but he was locked in for the 3rd teamers. So like, he is a very, very special leader. And it's really been cool to see the maturation that he's had over the past couple of years, and having a guy like that really step up, give Jaden a confidence boost if he needed it, knowing that one of those leaders stepped up publicly to say like, look, this is a dude unprompted. I think that was a really big deal and shows the type of leader that Jordan Clark is.
Yeah, that's well put. No question about it. Okay, before I get you out of here, 4 local quarterbacks in week number 1. They all went out and balled out. I watched a lot of each one of them. You had Tyler Shuck, Texas Tech, on the road at Wyoming. You had Spencer Rattler with South Carolina against North Carolina. You had Ben Finley on the road for Cal. And you had Mikey Keene, the former Chandler star quarterback, National Football Foundation Scholar Athlete of the Year, 4.8 GPA for Fresno State in his first outing. Of those 4, pick one off the board. Which one caught your eye on opening weekend?
Yeah, it really jumped out to me the way Mikey played on the road in Big Ten country. He made a mistake about midway through the 4th quarter. He threw an interception, and the Boilermakers were able to take the lead. Since then, he rattled off such an impressive drive. And for those that have watched Mikey in high school, it was perfectly Mikey, just like, taking what the defense has given him, 16-yard gain, 8-yard gain. You heard the term poise, and that is Mikey Keene to a T. He's never too high. He's never too low. He's now coming to Tempe in 2 weeks.
That is Jordan Ham dropping knowledge as he does every week. Walking On, brought to you by Venezia's Pizzeria.